when you look at a football game or basketball game, anything, I don't think it's one thing you can point to. I think players should have did a much better job of executing, dropping passes, false starts, things like that. But also, too, I don't think, our offensive staff did a great job of putting those guys in a great position. And when you do that, you lose the cohesion of the complementary football. Like you lose that, you know what I mean? Like now you're not giving your defense more rest because you're going 3-and-out, because you're having
Right.
bad, poor play calling or not executing at a high level. So it's almost a snowball effect. It's like, well, defense isn't playing that well. Okay, cool. Georgia scores a touchdown, gives the ball back to Michigan. Well, we're not calling plays in a cohesive manner, and we're not executing at a high level. So we go 3-and-out, or we get a first down, but then the next, set of downs, we, punt it. Defense is back out there. They're not playing well. Like it ends up spiraling, and then you end up with a final result of what did it end up being? What, 34-6, 40-6, something like that. That's how
34-11, something like that.
that happens. And real quick, I want to acknowledge the super chat, but it says, from the good senator, thank you so much. It says, I was at the game, and to me and other Wolverines fans, it was clear that they were losing the ball in the lights on the big plays that you mentioned. So, I mean, I can't say that, hey, that, had they found the ball in the lights, like they'd be fine. But nonetheless, I definitely wanted
I don't know
to
how to
address that. But
respond to that, because I mean, I'm not saying that it's not true. I mean, clearly something was going on, but Georgia wasn't losing the ball in the light, so I don't know where our guys were. Were we not getting any field time, and Georgia did. Is that what happened? I mean, I'm not saying that it's yeah. Thank you, GOJ. I can't. And I'm not. And I don't think that. I didn't see who that person was. Like, I don't think they were trying to make an excuse. I think it was an observation, and I'm not saying the observation is incorrect. Clearly, something was going on. Guys were hesitating with the ball in the air, but hey, both teams play in the same condition, so we didn't execute. And that's one of those beating yourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't have a fade route and your receiver stops the route. Your quarterback throws to a certain spot, and like anytime a corner is able to catch a fade route like a receiver, something went wrong. the defender, the defense should not be able to be catching a fade route like the play was designed for them. Okay, like that's a problem. So something, those are the type of things where it's just like, okay. And I will say this too: we did see Aiden a couple times tonight getting in the mix. He didn't get home at all, but he made a couple plays out there, was getting in the mix. We saw no Ojabo. Ojabo was missing in action tonight. I thought Daxton Hill, clearly he was been dealing with something. I actually thought he played, given the circumstance, he actually made plays tonight. He was involved. So you got to give that kid credit, man. I know he's not feeling well, dealing with something. And I thought he showed up and made some plays tonight. I thought Josh Ross was not very good tonight. I thought Aiden was okay, in comparison to how he normally is. And I thought Ajabo was non-existent. And the reason I'm a little bit harder on those players is because those are our impact players. Those are our leaders, and so much more is expected out of them, right? So, those guys are all, maybe outside of Josh Ross, we'll see, are expected to definitely be at the next level. But I thought Dax was the best guy on defense today. And offensively, we didn't see much of Haskins. Haskins, didn't really get in the rhythm like he normally did. I thought Blake Corum had a horrible game today. But on a positive,
just so uncharacteristic. Like,
he was
the tough part
today.
is I think when in like I said, I want to preface it by, I'm not a Michigan fan, but the tough part is to see them play with, Blake Corum putting the ball on the ground, not just dropping the ball, also fumbling the ball.
Right.
Donovan Edwards early on looked explosive, and he was one of the guys that I thought would have a big game today.
Right.
Unlimited touches. Same thing. It just was like, oh man, it literally everything that Michigan has avoided all year, they did today. They put
Yeah,
the ball on the ground, they dropped the ball. The Cade made mistakes, throwing interceptions, turning the ball over. Like it's difficult. Like like I said, I was wrong on this game, but it's tough to. It's almost shocking when you watch a game to where a team does literally everything uncharacteristically. Like this was the formula, Dre, if you remember, and I know you will remember, but this was the formula Corey needed for Iowa to beat Michigan in
I
in
said that
the Big
earlier.
Ten championship.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was literally this. You
yeah.
needed Cade to throw 2 picks. You needed Blake Corum to fumble the ball. You needed, and I don't remember if Hassan
Penalties,
Haskins
false
fumbled the
starts.
ball today or not, but you needed multiple drops, just different things that have, in general, never happened and have never happened in the same game. You needed all those things to happen in one game for Iowa to win win
Right.
that the Big Ten championship. Obviously, those things didn't happen, but it like that it's just kind of blowing my mind a little bit. Like we were texting them, just like, dude, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I'm lost because this has not been Michigan all year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just thought that just and it's just clear everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And like I said, you got within that, you got to give Georgia credit. They came out with their head on fire, man. They were hitting, man. Those Georgia boys were hitting. They were delivering some hits today. And they came out. It looked like they were upset. They was upset over the. They took some heat after that loss to Bama, right? Like Kirby, saving owns Kirby and all this stuff, and it's clear that they really want that second shot. They're going to get it. They're going to get it, and we'll see what happens. But we've really given our criticism of Michigan, but I want to make sure for people who have just joined or didn't hear us earlier to understand how fair we're being. We both have acknowledged how great of a season it's been for Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a fantastic year. I am not here salty by no means at all. I'm very proud of what these guys have done, but we're just breaking down what happened in today's game. We're still acknowledging how far they've come. So it's just one of those things where now you wonder. This is Harbaugh first playoff appearance. This is the first time we've seen him have 3 or 4 weeks, 3 weeks to prepare for an opponent.
Yep.
And this is how his team looked. So now that brings to the question: how good of a job does Jim Harbaugh do with long-term preparation? Right?
And if you think about Kirby Smart and the coaching tree he came from was Nick Saban,
Yeah.
and Nick Saban has historically done a very 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 good job when it comes to having multiple weeks of preparation time. So who knows? I can't say that Jim Harbaugh was out prepared by Kirby Smart, but it didn't look great.
When
So
your team beat
couple
themselves,
comments I want to acknowledge
go ahead.
real quick. I'm sorry. But T270 Whisperer gave us a super chat with a super sticker. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. D Brown makes a good point. He said, let's see the tape first before we blame Gaddis. He was scheming guys open all year and Cade wouldn't pull the trigger. I saw a play where CJ was open on a crossing route and Cade froze and took a sack. I will agree with that wholeheartedly. I do remember seeing a time where he took a sack and I'm like, dude,
God's
you
wide
got to
open and throw
throw
the
it on
cross.
time to that crosser. Like,
Yeah.
and maybe it was the same exact play, but no, part of big time football is getting the ball out on time when you have that third step or fifth step or whatever
Yeah.
the step is. You've got to deliver the ball. Whoever is there, you got to deliver the ball. And then one last thing before I pass it back off to you, but I want to acknowledge the super chat. Antoine Johnson, thanks so much for the super chat. Antoine he's been here with us since day one, so I definitely appreciate him
The
so
guy right
much.
there.
But he says McDonald should have went to a tight man to man. The safety's over the top to the bubble screen. Gaddis should have been more aggressive passing the ball with JJ. They stayed in and running the ball. And I mean,
Look,
I would agree with those things. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
no, I thought, man, it's just tough, dude. It's tough because early in the game, man, James Cook, but who by the way looks just like his brother Dalvin, and
Oh
performed.
my
They
gosh,
look like twins, dude.
doppelganger,
Dude, I'm
doppelganger.
like,
They literally look the same. I was like, oh my god,
I'm like, is
like
that Dalvin? I
that is
know it's his
Dalvin
brother.
Cook.
No, no, that's
That's Dalvin Cook.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And he
I'm
runs
like,
like
this
him
is
too.
cheating. You guys have an NFL running back suited up in Georgia. I'm like,
In
oh
Georgia
my
uniform.
goodness.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yes.
literally, their parents, like both, like they came from clearly the same chromosomes and all that stuff. You
Oh
know, I
man.
mean, like everything, and they're both. I mean, James is good. I like James, man. Like he kind of tore into us early, and so like, man, I don't know. I thought, and then we saw also. We knew that Bowers was going to be a problem, and man, was he a problem early, dudes? And like all the mismatch areas that our defense could have been exposed. It got exposed. We knew Bowers was going to be an issue, and guess what? He was. And it's just like, man, and to give Stetson Bennett credit for this, man. Like I didn't realize how mobile he really was, and that guy is quick. He's small to the ground, so it's kind of hard to, like get a hold of him. He's kind of shifty, and even when we got pressure, dude, like we just couldn't get him down, and it was just man, it felt like one of those long drawn out march to death. That's what it felt like tonight, you know. And we were never in a game really. I thought there was a slight opening potentially. What was it? It was 17-0. And I text you, and it was like I think 5 minutes to go in the game. No, 6 minutes and 26 seconds, I think it was. And I text you, we were texting each other, and I was like, okay, if you can get to halftime 17-7, get you a touchdown, you feel pretty good, like we're still in this game. 17-7, right? Knowing that you get the ball to start the second half. Well, that's not how the first half ended. And it's just you say that, dude, you can't have three, you got to have seven, and what do you know? Michigan gets 3 points, a field goal. It just never,
Yeah.
that door never was quite there for Michigan to break through, and you just kind of chalk it up and say, you know what, better team won tonight.
Yeah. It's tough. It just I think to me, if you're a Michigan fan, I think the thing that you would feel good about is that your team went out with them having a good showing. Like it's tough to have this being the last thing, the game. Um, but like you said, when you get to the big time and big boy football, like this is what it ends up being sometimes. I think I'll definitely reiterate it. Michigan 1,001% belonged here. And people
Of
could say,
course.
oh, but Michigan, whatever. You can
Real
say
quick,
what you
hold on.
want.
Let,
That's
let me
fine.
make sure. I
They
want your
belonged
opinion on
here.
this, real quick.
Go ahead.
And they kind of left earlier. Some of the Ohio State trolls, which we knew that they're always here, they kind of left earlier. But I have to say this: some people was like, "Oh, Ohio State, would have been a better game versus Georgia." Did you not watch that game the last week in November? Do you see how Michigan physically dominated Ohio State? The point of me bringing that up is not to be petty. I'm just making a point with, you have to understand how physical this Georgia team is. Okay. If you
Hmm.
thought that Ohio State had an issue, as an Ohio State fan out there, if you thought you had an issue with, we were sick or whatever, if you thought you had an issue with Michigan's physicality, what do you think you would have done against Georgia? You would have had
Hmm.
major issues. So eh, I just, I'll leave it there.
I'm with you. So Antoine with another super chat. Thanks so much. He said Stetson had a good game, but when the game plan is to throw bubble screens all night, it's not that hard, especially when Michigan doesn't play tight. They did not do a great job of just stressing the bubble screens. They just kind of took what was there.
Right.
They really did. They did it. And kudos to them. Like that is ideally what you want to do. So I'm just not. It's tough. Georgia played a great game and they dominated from basically start to finish. So there's not too much that I am going to get on them about. Um, so we're a couple minutes away from wrapping up. Dre, what? So as a Michigan fan, what one thing I will kind of toss to you is if you had a message to the 2021-2022 Michigan football team, what would your message be to them, to those guys?
To the team.
Yep.
Um, Great season. You guys learned a lot. You endured a lot of adversity, and you fought and won and took steps forward. Use this as a learning experience with how far you've come, how far you still have to go, and take that motivation and that pain that you felt tonight and use that and come back better next year. But don't feel any shame for the season you had because it was great. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Want to read this last super chat. Rick James, appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Says Michigan's a very good team and deserve to be there. They just didn't have a good game today, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. But like I said, I think to me, this is a building block. Like this is something that you get there, and then you kind of experience it and see what it's like, and then next year and the following year you get to that point to where you feel more comfortable in this experience. So I don't think Michigan has anything to be embarrassed about. It happens. It's college football. Anything can happen. So it just is what it is. Keep their heads high. Keep working.